everybody. This is my second time doing this because I messed something up. Anyway, what I'm about to show you is a meeting. It was called Common Ground, and it was sponsored by the Halifax County Sheriff's Office. And what it is they got a call for hunters and a call for property owners to get together and talk about their issues. And they want to form a committee of 4 and 4 to deal with this. And let me preface by saying I'm not totally ignorant on hunting, but I felt like I was swimming in testosterone. This is not my area. When I was little, my father didn't have a son. I was the youngest. So he took me hunting until I hit puberty, and then it ended. But we would go up on a big mound of sawdust. I'd have a little .22, and he'd have his whatever, and we'd sit up there and he'd wait for the deer, and I'd have my Nancy Drew book reading because that's all I cared about was spending time with my dad. So I know a little bit about it, but I did learn at this meeting there's something called still hunting, S-T-I-L-L, and it's just when you're sitting still waiting for the deer in a tree stand. But then there's hound hunting, bow and arrow hunting. They talked about different things, but the problem seems to be that people have a pack of dogs that will chase a deer to tire it out, so to help the hunter find it more easily or something. But sometimes the dogs get off where they're hunting onto private property or posted property, and that's where the conflict comes in. So they talked about some resolutions. One guy made a good point about, dogs don't know where property lines are. Somebody talked about some dogs have Garmin collars where you can find them. And the law is if your dog does go on someone's property, you can go retrieve it, but you have to be on foot and have no weapon. So no cars and no weapons to retrieve the dog. But a big point was all about communication, that, if you have a club and you're hunting on a big thing of land or whatever, and there's somebody there that doesn't want dogs on their property, or there may be a conflict, get their contact information and contact them so you can say, hey, I'm so sorry, the dogs got out. And then there's also preventative things to do, like, have your hunts in areas further away from someone's property, or I think they talked about fencing. And anyway, so they're going to get this committee together, and they're going to deal with things on a case-by-case basis, mainly to help facilitate communication so that no conflicts arise. There's always going to be these outliers and anomalies, like people who break the rules and hunt from the road and probably just don't give a crap, because there's just people like that. I hate to say it, but that's something we should do in every area. If there's a rule you don't like it, then do something to change it. I'm actually in the process of doing something like that right now about an ordinance in South Austin I don't agree with. But it was so good to see that many people come out. And I realized that's because this is an issue that is apparently near and dear to people's heart. I'm not a hunting advocate. I mean, I get hunting for food. I get hunting so that it's not populated. I've never really felt comfortable with hunting for sport, especially those people who go to Africa and kill endangered species for tusks or something. I just don't think that's right. Or what they did to the gorillas. God, that was horrifying. But I do get, food and overpopulation. And they didn't get too much in politics. They were trying to keep this just to a local level, and what some conflicts may be and how to solve them. And again, the big thing is communication. So I hope we could get more people out like this for other issues in this county. I would love to see this many people at a town hall meeting, Halifax, South Boston, at a board of supervisors meeting, instead of waiting for an issue that only affects you, because this hunting thing doesn't affect me, but I'm interested in it because it kind of shows me the dynamics of some things going on in the county that I had no idea about otherwise, and it actually educated me a lot. So anyway, there's a lot of speakers. It's about an hour and a half. Hope you enjoy it. If you have any feedback, make sure to subscribe to me on YouTube. Share this with other people so that they can be interested in our county stuff. All right, have a good one. Be good to each other.
Everyone, if you come on in and take your seat, we'll go ahead and get started there. My name is Freddie Clark, Sheriff of Halifax County. I'd like to welcome each and every one of you here tonight. The first thing I'd like to do is start off with the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. If you don't mind, please get up and join the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible. Thank you. Again, thank you all for coming to the event. And I would like to thank Dave Moore with DWR and also Deputy Tyler Troop for putting this program together. And like I said, it's the purpose of this event is called Common Ground. And we're here for that main purpose, is trying to come up with solutions between landowners and hunters. We're not here to talk about the legislation that's ongoing or has been going, or any laws that have not been passed yet. We're here to talk about the laws that we are dealing with today. So I hope that we can keep this conversation, this agenda to that. The goal is we're hoping at the end of this we can form a committee from landowners and hunters to meet once or twice a year to try to come together with some guidelines to be satisfactory to everybody. I talked to the sheriff of King and Queen County today, and they had this meeting about a month or so ago, and they have a lot of complaints from both sides as well as we do. But he said the meeting went very well, and they are moving forward. They've had their first meeting with the committee, and he said things are going really well. So that's our goal here tonight. I'd like to introduce the speakers tonight. We have with us somewhere back here, David Moore. He's the DWR Hunter and Landowner Engagement Coordinator. Bob Smith, he's the DWR Outreach Director. He's sitting over here on the sideline. And also behind me, I have Sergeant Harris and Officer Whitney with the DWR Conservation Police Office. And then we have our Commonwealth Attorney, Tracy Quackenbush Martin, here as well. If we have any questions, anything for her. So again, thank you for everybody for coming. I'm going to now turn it over to David Moore, and then once everybody makes a presentation, then we have a question and answer session. We want to respect everybody's time. We're not putting a time limit on it, but we hope to get everybody's question and have an answer for them. So thank you so much. Okay.
Yeah, first of all, I just want to thank you all for turning out tonight. As the sheriff mentioned, he was speaking with the King and Queen Sheriff today. We've had these in about 5 counties so far. This is a new program. We just started last fall. And this model of meeting isn't new, though. This was something that had been implemented in a handful of counties in the Tidewater region of the state, going all the way back to the 1980s. Counties implemented these. They ran them even through the 2010s with success. Speaking with some of our more senior law enforcement officers that had the chance to attend those, they saw that they were beneficial in bringing hunters and landowners together and actually resolving some disputes and conflicts on a case-by-case basis. So that's really the goal here, guys and gals, is to bring folks in this shared community together to understand that, these conflicts, these disputes, they hurt everybody in the long run. They're not only damaging to landowners, they're damaging to hunters. So really bringing people together in the vein of, we just want to bring folks together to build mutual respect, build better relationships, and be able to work things out together. That's what it's about. It's about a local focus here in Halifax County. How can we make each other feel respected? That's our property, the landowners. How can we help them to feel respected? How can we help everybody, the hunters, to feel respected? It goes both ways. Part of that's productive communication. We hope this can be a forum for, it's not supposed to be about debate or argument. We don't want it to be about trying to discredit the other side or tear the other side down. We want this to be, a collaborative place where we're not looking at this as an us versus them issue. We're all together here in the same community. So how can we just come together and work these issues out? And with that committee that the sheriff had also mentioned, that's the end goal. Is for future meetings for a committee, just a volunteer committee of hound hunters and landowners will set the agendas and preside over the future meetings. You'll still have support from the sheriff's office, you'll still have support from the DWR, but the point of that is when landowners have concerns and when hunters have concerns, you can come to that committee between meetings, get on the agenda for the next meeting, then with the support of that committee, with their community ties,
well, thank you for that question.
Office and the DWR,
really,
let's help troubleshoot through some of these situations and just figure out how we can make it better for everybody. So
what
it's
it would
really
be more about is
inheriting
coming
the
to this
concerns of others.
meeting,
You know, we're not
being
always
willing
going
to
to see
work
eye
with
to
the
eye,
committee and
right?
bring
And that's
more
okay,
specific
but understanding
situation,
that,
which is
again,
going
these
to,
conflicts
you know,
and
vary
disputes,
wildly from case to case.
they're
You know,
negative
if
for
it's
everybody.
dogs on the
They need
property,
to be
okay,
addressed. So
be willing
coming together,
to come here
understanding other people
in
have
front of the
concerns,
committee,
whether it's
present your
about,
case,
you know,
explain exactly
hounds on
what's
their
going
property,
on, and
whether
again,
the hunter has
the finer
concerns,
details of
maybe
that situation
somebody
are going to
impeding
vary
the
on a
hunt.
case
Again,
by
it
case
goes both
basis,
ways, but when
if the
people have
concern
concerns,
is, you
how
know,
can we
hounds
take
on your
those things
property,
seriously
bring
and
that
be
forth
willing
to the
to
committee and
accommodate those
allow them
concerns
to
and
work
not
through
dismiss
that with
them.
the hunters, the hunt clubs involved, and
You know,
see
really
what
a lot
can
of this
happen
is
for
going
that
to be based
situation.
in obviously
In
following
terms
laws,
of what
but
the
also
landowner is
the ethical
giving
best
there, I don't
practices.
know
How can we all
what
be
there would be
treating each
to,
other
I agree with you, I
ethically,
don't know what you
doing
would
the
be giving
things. A lot of it
either.
comes down to common
I don't
courtesy,
think
y'all.
it's about really giving
How can we be making
anything,
each other
but
feel
I think just
respected and
being
respecting
willing
each other
to
fully
work with those
and
people and
finally
work
working
something
towards
out.
solutions, right? Like we mentioned, the idea is to approach these conflicts on a case-by-case basis and just work together, you know, work together in a setting where we can just work towards solutions that are going to benefit everybody. You know, we understand, you know, people have their traditions. We are obviously the hunting agency. We support lawful and ethical hunting. We want to see hunting thrive for our kids and grandkids. You know, it's a fact of the matter, not just hound hunting, but all hunting. We've seen, unfortunately, this sport that I've grown up with, that I've loved my entire life, it's really declined over the last 30 years. We only have half as many deer hunters as we used to 30 years ago, and that's a really sad statistic. We want to reverse that, right? And the way we reverse that is representing the sport well, and I know I'm preaching to the choir for a lot of folks. Most hunters I meet are great ethical folks, but, you know, representing the sport well, creating fans of the sport, and bringing new people into the sport, that's the way we're going to grow it for future generations. So I think, you know, this is a great outlet for that, bringing people together in a community in a positive way, working things out, and just portraying the sport well to the general public, I think will make a lot of progress for everybody. So happy to continue forward with this meeting. That's all I have to say right now, but again, we're going to take questions and answers from folks that, you know, the sheriff can take. I'll be here, the CPOs as well, so thank you all very much.
That's a good question. I mean, I don't have an answer for you as to how you're supposed to keep your dogs from going on other people's property.
Can we go ahead and move into the question and answer session? If you care to
Work
ask
through
the
that
question,
question,
we
I
actually
guess,
come to this
is
mic just back here.
you're a dog hunter and you have dog
Working for
hunting
you.
experience.
Real quickly, we have some snacks
Probably
and
know
water
better than
over here
most
if you need some. And the
what tools
restrooms,
you
the
have
men's
at
is
your disposal
back here to your left, and the women's is
try
down the
to
hall a little bit to your
keep your
left.
dogs onto property that they're supposed to be on. So, you know, we're here more to answer law questions, so that's a hypothetical question with really no legal answer to. It's up to, in the interest of trying to get along and to prevent some of the issues that do happen between the dog hunting community and landowners who don't want dogs on their property. I guess that's the question that we're trying to get to the bottom of with these meetings is what can be done to try to respect, you know, dog hunters who enjoy hunting in that way, but also respect property owners who may not want dogs coming across their land because maybe they like to still hunt, maybe they just don't like intrusion onto their property in their eyes. So, yeah, I mean, I can't answer your question as to what you can do.
I mean, I agree with both sides, you know, as far as them not wanting dogs, but like I said, it's hard to do that sometimes, to keep them on, especially when they're in the middle of a block. But, anyway, thank y'all for what y'all trying to do here.
Yes, sir.
Just to piggyback on that just a little bit there, you know, again, each situation, you know, that tract of land sounds like it's surrounded by the hunt club. Each situation is going to vary a little bit in the finer details, and that's what the goal is. Once that committee is up and running, they can review the finer details on a case-by-case basis of each situation with the support of DWR, with the support of the sheriff's office. But again, that hunter-landowner committee can look at that specific situation. The hunter or the landowner can bring in, you know, print it out from Onyx or Hunt Stand, right? The property lines, describe that exact situation, how the dogs are moving. Like the sergeant said, you know, we're not here to mandate exactly how you run your dogs. You understand that tract of land. The landowner understands that tract of land, really bringing you guys together to the committee to really review the fine specific details of each situation individually, right? Because there's no one size fits all answer. It's going to vary, for exactly how is that playing out in that situation on that tract of land can vary. So that's, again, the hope with this committee. Once it's established, those things can be evaluated in a very focused manner.
Good evening. My name is Joel Yancey. I'm a landowner and a dog hunter. The guy asked the question, which I can vouch for what he was saying. You might turn your dogs loose on this block that you got leased out or you own, but when the dogs get on that 50 acres and you're trying to get your dogs off the land, but the landowner won't let you come in and get your dogs. So that's a whole lot of issues that we be having as hunters. We can't, sometimes we have to walk in and get the dogs, stuff like that. That's the problem we have. Some landowners that don't want you in there.
So just to clarify, sir, your question is really like regarding the retrieving your dogs when they get onto property you don't have permission to hunt, correct?
Correct.
So again, I'll try to focus on the legal aspect, but then maybe bring up some suggestions that won't necessarily be a legal standpoint, but hunters have the legal right to retrieve their dogs. Obviously there are some stipulations there as to how they can do that. Without permission from the landowner, they can walk without a firearm onto prohibited lands to retrieve their dogs and get them off that property. That being said, open communication with the landowners in question. I assume being as a hunt club and being out hunting, doing that as a recreational sport, you can probably have a good idea of what landowners you may have the dogs venture onto and some landowners that you encounter more frequently. I suggest just trying to be proactive and reaching out to them, seeing what you can do as far as if they're willing to maybe let you drop someone off or ride onto their property with vehicle. Obviously, you need to get permission from them appropriately, but just try to be proactive with them. And if worst comes to worst, you do have the right to retrieve them by foot without a firearm.
Yeah, but a whole lot of situations before we can even attempt to retrieve the dogs is already a complaint called in.
Well, regardless of whether a complaint is called in, obviously landowners have the right to report when dogs are on their property. Just the fact of the dogs being there is not necessarily a violation. They can report it, and that's our job to investigate to see what's the situation. Obviously, like I said, it's not necessarily a violation until either a retrieval law is broken or a general trespassing law is broken, whether someone's on the property with a firearm or vehicle, something of that nature. So, that being said, just if you want to are you asking for like a clarification on the retrieval rights as a hunter to make sure that you stay in the right, or?
It was just a concern that a bunch of the hunters that I hunt with in my club was having issues with.
Yes, sir. So as far another thing, I've already stated that your right to retrieve by foot. Without permission, you can do that by foot. And if you do come across a landowner and they ask you to identify yourself, you're required to do so. That being said, if you follow those rules, and also before you get to that point, try to be proactive. Let them know, hey, maybe if you have a contact number, you can reach out to them, say, our dogs have gone onto your property. Do you mind if we send a guy in to come get them up? And go from there.
Okay, thank you.
I don't really have a question. I'm probably loud enough where y'all can hear me anyway. There's no need for this. My name's Marion Milstead. I own a hunting preserve. I own an outdoor outfit, whatever you want to call it. To add to what he said, we use dogs. I'm not going to lie about it. I have a group of guys that come out of West Virginia when I have bear trouble. I had a problem last year. A bear cost me about $7,000 in tree stand damages and whatnot. These guys came out of West Virginia. We hunted for a week, killed 14, 16 bear, I forget what it was. These guys have dogs with collars on them, and this is for you guys to help these landowners. And it hurts as a hunting preserve owner when your dog crossed onto my land, and I have guys that are paying to hunt this land to steal hunt, and now I have to reimburse these guys for this hunt. Last year alone, it cost me almost $10,000. That's why I get upset. I understand what you all are trying to do and understand why you're doing it. And I hope you all have the ability to do it and pass it down to your kids, your grandkids, so on and so forth. The dog food's expensive. The licenses are expensive. You said earlier that deer hunting has declined. I think the reason why that is, it's so expensive to hunt deer anymore. You got to pay for your license. You split the licenses up. You got to buy this license. You got to buy that license. You got to buy this tag. You got to buy that tag. Then you got to buy the gun. Then you got to buy the orange. Then you got to buy all this stuff to hunt with. And the price of everything has gone up. We can't afford the deer hunt. You're killing us. Taxes, you name it, it hurts. This young family gets 2 more kids in their family. They want to take their kids hunting. They can't because they can't afford it. But back to what I was saying about the dogs. Showed him the lay of the land. Guys ride around. He's got a 50-inch screen in his truck. Amazing technology. I wish I could put that on my wife from time to time. But anyway, I said, don't let the dogs get here. He hit the dog. The dogs turn around and come back. A lot of y'all say, it hurts the dog. The dog won't hunt. We raise and train bird dogs. About 50 a year. We use those collars to train those dogs. A lot of the complaints are the collar will make the dog not want to hunt. If that's the case, then that dog didn't want to hunt anyway. You need to think about that. That's my side of it from where I sit. Like I said, we train about 50 to 100 dogs a year. I can train Labradors to retrieve and point. That's just my side of it. I'm not here to say y'all are doing wrong. I'm not here to say we're doing right. What I'm here to say is this committee is an amazing idea, and we need to utilize it because the less we work together, the more opportunity there is for none of us to be able to hunt. That's what you need to think about. That's what you need to take away from these meetings. Not he was on my land. Not he's made a complaint and I didn't even get to get my dog. That's not how it needs to go. It's really not. This committee is an amazing thing. You need to think about it and you need to really utilize it. That's all I've got. I got something, Fred.
Hey, Brandon, do we have a coyote problem? I just had 2 wolves on my land, okay? And they're coyotes, okay? But do coyote run deer? Okay. Fox run deer? Bear? So what is the difference if a dog's running a deer, a coyote's running a deer, or a fox is running a deer? I get what everybody's saying. I think the problem is, because I have a lot of land too, and I'm buying more land. And I've learned that I had to learn the hard way a couple years ago. I have a couple horses. And one guy let my horse out in town. Okay, we live off Cage Trail. And so me and Mike McGregor, Clinton Mann, 2 deputies, and a hearse are chasing our horse down College Street. And so I couldn't stop that horse from going on anybody's property. And yeah, it was mucking up the stuff in the backyard. It was messing it up. And so finally we got the horse after about an hour. So I went to the houses and I took care of the damage. But I liken it to, it's hard for us to, because I raise bird dogs too. I got a couple of $5,000 bird dogs. So I realized what we're saying, but we're not talking about like me saying, Alan, you can't go on my land. Okay, I can tell Alan, he gets it. But how do you tell a dog who's chasing a deer off of the land we're hunting to stop? And then if you're shocking them, then it's true. I disagree with you, bud. I mean, I don't know you, but I disagree. If you keep shocking a dog, they're going to think, okay, this habit's bad, right? It's called conditioning, right? We know that. And so I think the bigger question is how can we understand that there's a heritage, and I always hunted with dogs. Like I was a big pheasant hunter, so I always preferred dogs. But how do we get to a point where we understand that dogs aren't the only thing chasing deer? And how do you know that the dog ain't going to run a deer on your land? And so I think there's a balance somewhere. And I think that we have to come to a conclusion that you're never going to stop a dog from running where a dog wants to run. I mean, if you know how to do that, then we got to be really smart people to do that. And so I understand we want to make more laws, but is that really the answer, or we want to make a committee? But what is that going to set out to accomplish when the simple fact is nobody wants to go on the land, but if the dogs are running a deer off of their land onto another land, or they go onto a neighbor's land and a landowner's land and jump a deer, I don't know how you logically stop that. I mean, I consider myself a pretty smart guy, and I don't know how you stop that. Right? And so when you come out and you get a call, and you're coming out there, you know, to challenge us or to check IDs, whatever you want to do, and I think that's great. I mean, I think that's your job, and I support that. You know I support that. How do we get to a point where we understand that there's a lot of confounds that go into it, and there's no possible way we are ever going to stop dogs from running our land? Now, I will say, during bow and black powder, we got to do a better job with that. Like, we should not be running dogs during bow black powder. You know, I mean, we just shouldn't, because you're messing up a good still hunt during the time. So that's the kind of stuff that we probably need to talk about. But during hunting season, I think we need to just say, you know what? It's a heritage. It's hunting season. And from what I see, it's usually Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So hunt on Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Still hunt if you can. You know, that's what I do. And so I think calling you every time we have an issue, I think the issue is we just need to come to terms with, I can't stop a dog from running. I mean, that's what they're bred to do. And then if that's the case, if we stop that, then what are we going to do with the coyotes and fox and bear? Because they're going to run deer too. You want to answer?
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know how you answer.
Yeah, I don't know if that was really a question that I can't answer.
Well, I think the question is, how do you expect us to stop a dog? Now, you can stop us, right, from breaking the law. I get it. But you can say, here's your ticket citation. There's an impression control. There's a whole system behind it. But we can't do that to the dog. I can't say, no, look, you do it again, you're going to jail for trespassing. It doesn't matter, right?
I mean, I can't tell you how to stop your dog. It's not my legal responsibility to tell you how to stop your dog. We enforce the laws. And if there ever was a law that gets implemented that is contrary to what's on the books now, we'll enforce that as it's written.
I understand.
But I think from what I see as a CPO, I mean, I know a lot of faces in this room. I've been in this county for a long time. One thing I noticed, I think that this type of meeting and the committee moving forward can help with. I can't tell you how to stop your dog. I can't do that. So that's a question I can't answer. So I'm moving past that. I think the value in this type of meeting is to help people understand maybe more about the other
Absolutely, no, I
viewpoint.
agree. No, I appreciate the meeting. I think it's a good meeting.
Yeah, so I know sometimes landowners, when they see dogs on their property, assume that it's intentional. That's not always the case. Sometimes it could be the case. I mean, there are bad apples. So there are people that release dogs close to property lines, on the property lines, or onto property. They know good and well they don't have permission to be on.
Absolutely, it needs to be addressed.
Right, and so, but there's also times where maybe the hunters had no intentions of the dogs coming onto that property, but it doesn't necessarily help the feelings of the landowner who doesn't want them there. I think in some instances there are some options available to hunters that you can do to try to restrict where the dog goes. You can, if you know there's a particular landowner who does not want dogs on your property, I would ask them, what are you doing to stop it? Are you doing anything? Are you trying? You know,
I agree, but the same taxes paid by them are paid by this guy that wants it. You know what I'm saying? So it's a balanced approach.
Yeah, I mean, I think that gets to the heart of the matter. That I can't. If I could come up with an answer to that question,
You could
I wouldn't have to be sitting right
be
here.
a captain, right?
Yes, I don't know about that.
All right. Well, I agree with you, Brandon. I would just say that I come from both sides of it, right? I really do. I just think that if we keep playing around, and I know we don't want to talk a lot about this, but we have to understand the Second Amendment is important, and so therefore hunting is important. And so at some point we got to come together and protect our gun rights because they are under attack, like it or not. And so the people in this room got to come together and dog hunting. You've got to understand it's a big, huge sport, and it helps protect our Second Amendment. So I hope people take that in consideration as well. Thanks.
Thank you.
Just to follow up on that a little bit more, just on the, the hunting practices side of things, like we understand, and I'm, talking to a lot of landowners, a lot of them are under the understanding that they understand the dog will get out of the hunt sometimes. But, if it's a regular thing happening every time a track is run, talking with hunters around the state that I've talked to, again, there's no one size fits all. And I'm not saying any of these things are foolproof, but are there some things that can be done to maybe minimize that, right? Like standards in different locations, the ratio of hunters to dogs to acreage, just different things to look at. Again, I'm not saying there's no foolproof way, there's going to be a foolproof way to, stop it 100% of the time, but are there things that can be done to maybe minimize it, knowing that you have somebody, right, that doesn't want the dogs on their property? Is there something, that you can put into place on your property that would work in that specific scenario? Just being willing to look at those things and just try different things out. Again, not saying it's going to be foolproof, but just trying different things out that way.
My name is Barbara Martin, and I grew up in a hunting family. I fully support hunting, and I like it. I don't hunt myself now. I'm a landowner now, and I understand about dogs. We catch a lot of dogs. Through the years, I've caught a lot of dogs. I keep a chain on a tree close to the road, close to the driveway, and I chain a dog up. If it's past hunting time and that dog obviously is lost, I chain him up, and I call the owner. I've fed and watered dogs. We've even put them in trucks when it was raining because they were cold. We've returned dogs. So dogs are not the issue here. People are the issue. In our area, there are known bad apples, like what you were referring to. We know that there are individuals who don't lease property. Not like the hunt clubs here, where you're leasing property, where you can go, or you're getting permission to go on there, even if you aren't leasing. You have permission. Well, these folks don't. And they're turning dogs. These are your road hunters. And I'm talking serious road hunters. Like I'm concerned, we have bullet holes in the house and in buildings from these people. These are the problem. People are the problem, not the dogs. Dogs are doing the job. They're bred to run. It's what they do. Okay? What options are there for dealing with the not hunt club people who are, y'all are trying to do the right thing. You really are. But the folks who aren't, They're driving down the road, dropping them off, knowing that the dogs run this way, knowing they're going to go there, and they're right below my house, standing in the road with rifles. Rifles in the road, mind you. What are the options that, as landowners, we have to deal with these people? Because they've been really rude and really aggressive to me for years. Years. We're talking years here. What options are there that we have, or what else can be done from a law enforcement point of view to deal with this situation? I'm not talking about hunt clubs here. I'm talking about a group of folks who aren't leasing property, who are turning dogs out purposely. Matter of fact, they were running dogs yesterday. I saw those 3 trucks go by, and don't you know those dogs were turned loose? Came right through. We know those trucks. We know those people. What options are there? What do we do?
What you can do in that situation is like anybody else that saw something they thought was against the law or unsafe is, if you can take a picture, you can take a video. That includes the license plate of the vehicle. The chances of a CPO or even a deputy or any other law enforcement being right there when something happens is not always practical. I wish it was, but just the way things work, we're usually not right around the corner when something like that happens. So what we ask anybody to do is the same with the sheriff's office and troopers, any other police agency is, when you see something, you call. But be a good witness. Try to get as much information as you can. If you can take a picture or a video, most everybody has a cell phone in their pocket now. So, if you're not comfortable confronting anyone, and we're not saying you should, but if you can at least take a picture or a video of the people that are doing what you believe is something that's illegal or unsafe, and just call us, and we'll show up and look at what you have. And if we can determine that a law has been broken and who did it, then we'll handle that and address whatever happens. So that's what we always ask, is to report it either through the local dispatch, through our crime line number, and get an officer or a CPO out there as soon as we can, and we'll, if they're still there, we'll handle it then. But if not, we'll look at what you took pictures of, videos of, or description that you have, and we'll investigate it like we would any other complaint. Yeah, appreciate it.
Good evening. My name is Jay Devin. I'm from Charlotte County. And I'm not against dog hunting. I used to dog hunt years ago. I was president of the club. And we had a good time. I enjoyed it. But I am dog hunting probably 25, 30 years. And I'm probably older than you. You must speak for me here. But I can remember when we didn't have deer. I mean, I grew up bird hunting, and if you saw a deer track, it was something. They talk about this heritage. How long you been hunting deer? I don't think you guys even issued a license until 1960 to hunt deer. So we haven't had deer for hundreds of years in this part of the world. So, but my problem is, we own a bunch of land. We own land in 6 counties, and I lease land to dog hunters, steel hunters. I don't care who you are. I'll lease it to you. I like steel hunters because they don't tear my roads up as much as dog hunters. But I hunt a large tract in Charlotte County. We're hunting over 2,000 acres, and I've got some guys that hunt with me, and they're good hunters. And, this guy's talking about surrounding in 50 acres. I got 2,000 acres here. I get dogs on me all the time. So there's no reason for dogs to be on my property. And right across the creek from me, I got another 1,000 acres, and I'll lease it to a dog club. And so I have some leverage with those guys. I said, look, I don't want dogs on my property, especially during muzzleloader season. I don't want them on there during dog season. And they do a pretty good job for the most part, but I still wind up with dogs all the time. And I say, look, if I get dogs on my property, I'm going to take this lease away from you. So they try to do the right thing, but I still wind up with them. And I disagree with this guy. He said, oh, how are you going to stop the dog? I don't think you guys want to stop the dog. I've got a bunch of deer that we don't shoot small bucks. We got 4-year-olds and 5-year-old deer that we didn't shoot this year. We let them go. We let them walk. And that's the only way you're going to have big deer. But these guys know that we got big deer in there. So if we can get the dogs in there and maybe run him over here another mile to where we can shoot him, then that's the goal. That's the objective. And that's the part that I don't agree with. I try to get along with all my neighbors. I lease them land and everything. But this thing of saying, my dog can't read a posted sign, I'm tired of hearing that. You got to do a better job of trying to keep that dog off of somebody that doesn't want the dog. We still hunt. I've got some friends that drive 3 hours from the coast. That's on the East Coast. And they come in here to still hunt, and we get in the stand at 3 o'clock, and you sit there for an hour or so, and it's prime time, and here comes 3 or 4 dogs through there. They're either running or boodling or whatever. And when they're making that racket, guess what? The deer are not going to walk out. So they run your hunt. So why is that fair? He's driven 3 hours to hunt, and then somebody's got a dog that either got away or they're not following him anymore, and they run his hunt. That's not right. We don't interfere with any of you guys hunting. Why should they interfere with our hunt? I don't know what the solution is, but I agree with what you're trying to do, but everybody's got to do a better job of trying to be mindful. Hey, this guy's still hunting over here. Let's keep the dogs from going over there. Shock them or tone them or whatever you got to do, or turn them where you don't think they'll get on somebody who doesn't want them. But you just can't keep saying, oh, I can't control my dog. That's not working. You guys know what's going on in the House and the Senate right now, but you got to do a better job trying to control your dogs and be mindful of what other people are doing. Thank you.
Good night, good evening. How y'all doing? Kevin Rowland, live here in the Outlaw community, land owned and dog owned. Appreciate everybody coming together. It was a great idea to have this meeting. Probably 10 years too late, but just to address a couple things said. A lot of what's going on that these guys express is not happening in Halifax County. Their problems have been in Charlotte County. Mary, I sympathize with you. The bad dogs you're talking about, the guys can stop. They are tree-type dogs. They are companion, more companion dogs. Anybody that's coon hunted knows your dogs will hunt, come back to you. We are running a foxhound bred dog nowadays. All the track calls in the world, when you get to a property line, TT 15, 25 calls, do not stop that dog unless you're in sight of him and you have control over him when you tone him. If you tone him, he's half a mile in the woods, he don't know which way to go. I mean, I like the idea. Luckily, we hunt the river. The river is a natural boundary. We have had luck of toning dogs at the river and keeping them from swimming the river. But I've never had any luck toning them off property line. You know, I'm sorry, that's just the nature of the beast we deal with, you know. So, and we own a bunch of TT collars, and our dogs are broke. And when I get him inside of me, if I tone him, he's coming to the truck. But when he's half mile in there and I tone him, he don't know where I'm at. So to think that just because you have a garment collar on it, that's not going to make the dog stop. You know, you tone him, he don't know to keep going that way or come back. If you don't have a visual or voice command over, that training collar's not doing anything with it. So, but anyway, I hope this comes out. I hope it gets better. I hope we get a good dialogue going. You know, I hope we can solve some of these things for the future of my son, my grandson, and everybody else keep doing this. So, but anyway, thank you.
My name is Thomas Henry. A lot of y'all already know me. I'm a steel hunter and a dog hunter. A lot of issue that we have is between dog hunters and steel hunters. Nobody owns a deer. Nobody owns that deer. That deer travels, what a mature buck travels, like 5 miles, right? Something like that. I think that's what I researched. They travel everywhere. Nobody owns that animal. It's not a pet. It's against the law to have one as a pet, right? So they're not pets. They're not your deer. They're anybody's deer. They're wildlife. So that's the main thing. And another thing is, you know, by controlling the dogs on the land and stuff. I mean, we try our best. I mean, but like you said, if you're not seeing them dogs, you can't tell them which way to go. And there was some more things, but I forgot what I was gonna say. But that's gonna be it for right now. I can't think.
Name's Gavin Yates. I got some butts that run stuff, but got two little boys, mostly a daddy. But no, I don't try and do right because Brandon and Officer Whitby, I try to do right as a dog hunter because of these two little monkeys. I want to see them be able to do it one day. I know most of the dog guys, we're down in Hico Hunt Club. The landowners that we have some difficult times with are often out of town landowners. They're moving in from the city, they might be moving in from a state where they're not used to the heritage of hound hunting, the culture of hound hunting, the expectations or how it even functions and what the dog's doing. We've had people when we're running bears, they think it's more of a herding thing and the dog herds the bear to us and on the property where we can kill it. And we've had some good educational opportunities about how that works. I don't know if there's like an informational pamphlet on people that are closing at the courthouse, buying farms down here, buying that 15-acre tract, that 50-acre tract in amongst the hunt club, maybe through the farm extension agent where they could understand the culture, understand hound hunting a little bit, read a pamphlet, and understand what they're getting into when they're moving to land where dog hunting is done. Maybe information for people moving to the area on setting their farm up more friendly. The tight woven wire fence can do wonders for keeping dogs out of stock, and it not only keeps dogs out of stock, it protects your stock from foxes, coyotes. Most coyotes won't jump a woven wire fence. Most of the time they're going to go under it. You get a good tight woven wire fence, it's going to stop dogs, it's going to stop coyotes. It's kind of a win for everybody. But I don't know if y'all have something like that, an informational pamphlet, people moving into the area, or somebody having repeat difficulties, maybe how they could set their farm in a different way to be more landowner, hound hunter friendly, keeping dogs out, keeping their stock up. Is that something that could be done?
It goes a little bit further beyond that, but it does touch on what you're talking about. As everybody leaves tonight, before you leave, on that table over there, in addition to the hunting regulations, there's these little postcards with a hound on the front, and it says, hunting with hounds in Virginia or what have you. There's a QR code and a web address on the back that takes you to the DWR's website. It's basically our Hunting with Hounds page. It contains best practices, ethics, even, again, common courtesy stuff of building relationships with people in the area. Even as new people move into the area, we encourage always that hunters, before the season ever gets started, and I'm sure a lot of you do this already, but go introduce yourself to those landowners, build a relationship with them, exchange contact information. If you're going to be running in the area that day, give them a heads up, if you got to retrieve your dogs off their property, just give them a call or a text first and make sure they know what's going on. A lot of them really appreciate that. It's a small courtesy, but that resource was actually developed with the input we had, a stakeholder advisory committee of hunters and landowners in Richmond a couple years ago. That resource was developed with feedback and input from landowners and hunters alike. So if you would grab that on the way out, everybody, go check that out. And it does have, stuff from the hunter's perspective and the landowner's perspective, on there.
Is that something that y'all could, I know in Hico we have kind of repeat things with the same folks. Is that something that y'all could carry and suggest them checking out, setting up their farms in ways that are more conducive for keeping dogs out?
I'm just going to say, we can keep that information with us and hand it out, like we hand out pamphlets or other things. So that's something we can do, or start doing, is just handing out some information. Maybe if it's a lack of knowledge sort of thing, that's something we can consider. Yeah.
Appreciate y'all doing this.
Yes, and answer your question, we can try to come up with something to have done at the courthouse to provide that information, I think would be probably moving in the right direction as well.
Hello, my name is Charles Hudson. I hunt in the Scottsbury community. We got a local hunting club, and our lease borders what used to be Falkland Farm. It's like 7,000 acres. I just wanted to, I know you allowed legally to walk and retrieve a dog, but what is the law on where you can park your vehicle to legally walk to? Not just the Falkland Farm, but I'm on like 344 is posted land. If you just pull off on the side of the road, not blocking a personal driveway, is that a legal situation, or where is?
So that's a good question, and one of the good topic to ask. That's a good question. So as far as what we tell hunters, pulling off of the road, doing that is on somebody's property. If you don't have permission to do that, then you are subject to being trespassed. As far as what we advise hunters to do in those situations is when you're trying to get dogs up, have two people, you can drive public roadways and have someone jump out and get the dogs, and the driver obviously, keep on going and circle back to when they can return and get them. That's really the surefire way to keep yourself within the bounds of the law and not to trespass on anybody's property.
Legally, what is the legal roadway? Is it to the ditch? Or, that's why I'm asking. I know you're not supposed to block anybody's driveway, but if the public right-of-way is 30 feet from the center line, if I pulled off out of the tar road, but not across the ditch, is that legal parking? I reckon is what I'm trying to ask. That's actually Department of Transportation property.
The VDOT right-of-way it's a right-of-way for VDOT to have the road to go through property. Oftentimes VDOT doesn't even own it, and legal use of that right-of-way is basically for emergency purposes if your car is broken down or something of that sort. It's not for the purpose of parking to go retrieve dogs. And I know that's an issue with it causes difficulty if you're by yourself trying to get dogs up. That's why we try to hopefully make everyone aware to try to be proactive and plan accordingly to, if you know your dogs are going a certain way, get multiple people, get them dropped off, go get them, and without firearms, and then have the driving man come back and pick them up.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening. I'm Bill Cole. I've come down from the southeast part of Halifax County, Ramberg line area. A lot of you know me and know of me. Know of my family. I am a hound hunter. Deer hunter, rabbit hunter, and a landowner. So I just wanted some comments. No discussion about legal stuff, but some comments I'd like and some questions. To answer the gentleman's question here about tradition, my granddaddy killed the first deer he ever killed, 1948, on Mayo Bottom. So, and they had not a club, a bunch of men and dogs. In the 40s, 50s, 60s, on up to the early 70s, they hunted from Clarksville, Virginia to Turkey. Nobody else much dog hunted back then. So it is a tradition. My great-granddaddy raised foxhound on the farm I live on now. So that's how far the dog hound tradition goes. And I understand where we hunt, we got about 1,000 acres. Nice fella. He likes steel hunting. He brings people in that to steel hunt. The dogs get on his property, yes they do. got a good relationship with him. If our dogs get in there, we call him, let him know. He lets the hunters know. We walk in on somebody's property, we have permission to park. So that's what it takes. It takes communication. It takes people trying to get along. You're not going to agree with everybody. And sometimes you're going to have some rubs. But the best thing you can do in your own community is try to handle that. So I know everybody's not in my situation. Their family hadn't lived where they live for, 200 years. But at least try to get along, listen to each other. And most boy, I like to tell you this too. People in our area, they don't just deer hunt with hounds. They are hounds men, and they run hounds year round. If there's anything you could do to put a bug in somebody's ear in Richmond about fox pens in Virginia, it would help out a lot with houndsmen, the landowner, and everybody. Appreciate y'all, what y'all do. Thank y'all for this meeting. And I'll just throw this out now. My daddy was a Virginia game warden for 32 years, and he was a houndsman. So, thank y'all.
My name's Anthony Davis. I'm from the northern end of the county. I've dealt with Brandon before when I owned a store at Fort Folks, checking in there years ago. We don't have a lot of trouble lying in. I'm a dog hunter, landowner, we farm, lease a lot of land for hunting and farming. My question is, a lot of the property owners, when they call in with complaints, are they complaining because the dogs own the land? Are they complaining because the people retrieving the dogs? Or are they complaining because we're stealing their deer?
We get all kinds of complaints. I don't think I've ever had complaints about stealing any deer. I think most people recognize that, dog hunters can hunt deer just as legally as any other type of hunting, but we do get a lot of complaints of dogs being on property where they're not wanted. And we do get some complaints of people being on the property as well, trespassing, like physically trespassing. So it runs the gamut, a little of each, but we do get right many complaints of the dogs, just the dogs being on property if they're not wanted on.
Okay. In my way of thinking about this is for the people. Like I said, I live on the northern end of the county. We dog hunt. We don't have much trouble with landowners. We're starting to sell a lot of smaller parcels now, and we're having the same trouble. We're leasing our way around it. They're crossing their 10 acres of land. That's beside the point. But like down here further where we lease some farmland and we lease the hunting rights to it also, we have trouble with, every time a gun is fired, what are y'all doing there? What are you doing here? What are you doing there? My point, if you take away a lot of our dog hunting, I spend a lot of money on that. I'm going to focus my money on putting in food plots against these individuals that own their property. Like Mr. Devin, I know he owns a lot of land. We're not even close to him, but just saying, I'm going to try to pull your deer off of your land then. Chance for my dogs running them 1 in 100. But if I food plot, focus on that end of it, I've killed my biggest deer still hunting, ever. I just think they ought to consider that as, that's going to be a problem that's going to come up later, because I see them saying, I food plot, I raise these deer, I do this, I do that. I'm going to focus on getting your deer in a different way. Dog hunting is just something we do. We turn loose on that 500 acres. Yeah, sure, we get on your land. They go through it 10 minutes. Most deer, when I'm still hunting, if dogs come through, pay no attention to the dogs. So that's just my perspective on that.
Same way, I don't think it's a question. I might have a few in here. A lot of this may have already been covered, but ones that don't know me, Josh Hudson. I do work for Farm Bureau. It might be my clients, but I'm going to speak mainly a little bit on that side, but mainly just as a personal opinion. From the work side, I do have clients on both ends of the spectrum. We got a lot of hunters, we got a lot of landowners. But the biggest thing I see in a meeting like this is it's not really landowner versus hunter. A lot of the landowners are hunters, a lot of the hunters are landowners. But for some reason, everybody tries to pin you against each other. So I think, yeah, we need a committee, but at the same time, it shouldn't be one versus the other. As far as the insurance side, Farm Bureau itself, we probably got 80-90% of the farms in Virginia. Most hunt clubs do have their own general liability policies, and most landowners, at least the farms, 2 hunters do have some coverage on there. But as long as I've been an agent, I've seen 0 claims. If this was an actual incident, whether it be livestock damage, damage to other things, I would know about it. We deal with a lot of them. The only incident I've ever seen was in a county that didn't even allow dog hunting. Had a fellow that was still hunting, got in somebody else's tree stand, got hurt, tried to claim it on his policy. Nothing to do with dogs, somewhere out west. What I'm getting at is a lot of this stuff is kind of blown out of proportion. A lot of it could just be handled over a simple conversation. As far as the complaints, some of the biggest issue in the world nowadays, not just with this, is social media. You can go on there and get validation for anything that you want to get validation for. I'm sure there's some people that agree with you, and if you say it enough, somebody else might agree with you then. But that doesn't mean necessarily it's the right thing to do. As far as social media, I know y'all say y'all get a lot of complaints here and there about calls. I've seen some of the websites, you know, first day of General Firearms, they're going to post, hey, call this number if you have any complaints. So all that's doing is really driving up the complaint issue when there may not really be an issue. Every time somebody sees a dog box, they can call y'all. What's that doing? Tying up y'all's time. Use a little common sense. If the same people call all the time, they're crying wolf. Eventually, you're not going to pay attention to them, or it's just going to waste everybody's time. So not everybody with a dog box is out to get the landowner. Not every landowner should be out to get everybody that has a dog box. At the same time, I think a lot of the situations may be skewed one way or the other, depending on your bias towards the situation. What I mean by that is, I know everybody says, hey, keep dogs off your land, but hey, don't hunt from the road. Well, yeah, we know not to hunt from the road, but at the same time, if I'm trying to keep dogs crossing the road that's going to get on your land and may cause an issue, guess where I'm going to be? Probably on the road to try to keep that dog from crossing to get on that land. So you may see it one way, hey, this guy's hunting from the road, and in many cases, I think the man right here, sometimes they might be. If they're doing it the wrong way, guess what? If they're doing it the wrong way, everybody's going to tell you, go get them, do your job, because they're making everybody look bad. But if you already have a conscious bias towards something, that's how you're going to want to perceive it, and that's how you're going to want everybody else to perceive it. Same way, I heard somebody mention, hey, they're beside the property line. Well, if you want to stop the dogs before they get there, guess where everybody needs to be lined up? Beside the property line. They might not be trying to kill your deer. They might just be trying to stop your dogs from getting on your land where they're going to have to hear a complaint about it, which goes back to my original point. Social media will give you any validation that you want to nowadays. So again, just because you get on a website and somebody agrees with you doesn't mean that it's right. At the end of the day, don't complain all the time. I own some land. I hunt. For the most part, I've been doing this, bad dogs, since I was about 15. Got my first pack of beagles years ago. I don't think I've ever really had any complaints. Actually met, I think, Whitby earlier this year. Hey, I waved him down, said, hey, man, come over here and talk to me. Talked to him for a while, gave him a card, said, give me a holler. But at the end of the day, it's just be nice to the folks when you can. We talked it through, said, hey, good club here, no complaints. If you have any issues, give us a call. And I think that's how it should start from the get-go. It shouldn't be, hey, every time I hear a dog bark, let's call a game warden. It should be, hey, I hear the dog bark, let's call the local hunting club and see what they got going on. If it's bow season, if it's muzzleloader season, those guys hunt too. They don't want dogs out. I know if I've had a dog get out of my pen, I'm going to put a little post on Facebook, hey, my dog got out, just letting y'all know, be on the lookout. 9 times out of 10, that dog, if he's not bothered, he's going to come on back to the house. I want to feel better because the dog's not out. I know the dog is safe. I don't want the dog out. I don't bow hunt as much as I used to, but I'll get out there every once in a while. We don't want to bother anybody, just like y'all don't want to be bothered. It's this misconception that, oh, those guys are just trying to run my deal. It's really not. If anything, we just want to be out there and be peaceful like everybody else. Couple instances that I've had throughout my years of owning dogs. Probably 20 years ago, I had my first pack of beagles that I mentioned earlier. Guy had some chickens get killed. Come up in to the dog lot, shot my dogs in the pen. Come to find out, it was some neighbor down the road. It was their dog. But at the end of the day, I was young enough, didn't know any better. That fella could have came to me, but he took it upon himself to do something like that. Same way I've had some collars taken off dogs, people throw them in the riverbank. Anything like that, it gets to the extreme, but at the same time, we could have handled stuff like that with a simple conversation. A lot of times, most of this is just misunderstanding between people or misunderstanding the laws, like Gavin mentioned earlier. A lot of this is people that come in that may not do a lot of market research on the area before they buy a property, and then they expect everyone around them to change their way of life because of it. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing. We invite people, we invite new businesses around. It's great to have new people, new cultures. But at the same point, we're not really, I'm not going to say, hey, let's move out to, I don't know, let's move up to Washington, D.C. and live in the middle of town. And I'm going to take my 20 hounds with me and have them in my backyard. I mean, you got to do a little market research before you buy a property. You can read into that as much as possible. We need new folks. That's great. There's new markets coming in. It brings new folks, but at the same time, maybe there is something that we can do to educate these people a little bit where we don't cause all that controversy from the get-go. I'm not going to get super long-winded, but at the end of the day, just treat everybody like you would want to be treated. I know that's an old saying, but if you're the landowner that's constantly calling on everybody, just think when there's a time of need, you've already created this animosity between each other, and now the folks that live beside you might not want anything to do with you. And personally, I don't know about y'all, but I hunt my little block of land that I own. I hunt at a club elsewhere, but the deer eat my garden just like they eat my neighbor's, whether she likes to hunt it or not. So just because you might not want anybody there, your neighbor right beside you might love somebody hunting, and we just got to communicate. So at the end of the day, that's all I got. Kind of rambled on a little bit, but appreciate it.
Mr. Hudson, I have a question for you. You were speaking on Farm Bureau's behalf. Is that for Halifax County, or is that for Mecklenburg County, or is that the entire? When you say there was never any accidents or any reports?
So I worked in Halifax County for years, and I currently manage Mecklenburg County.
Right.
And as far as insurance claims, due to any incident involving livestock damage or
and that's Farm Bureau wide?
Yes. I personally, zero. I have not received any claims or anything like that.
Really?
Now, granted, we cover.
No, I understand that because I had a claim last year that was paid to Farm Bureau.
Yeah, but it wasn't while I was there. So as far as I said, I managed Mecklenburg, so I personally haven't received it.
Okay.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? So if you, I know you said Charlotte County, this is Halifax meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Hunter Strickler from Clover, Virginia. What I was wondering on is if we can't afford Garmin collars and we go back to beep collars. I don't know if y'all know anything about them or not. How do we control the dogs? Like, how do we know they're on somebody else's property? That's basically a question for the game commission.
It's up to you to figure out where your dog is, sir.
But what I'm wondering is, how are you guys going to look at it every time? You come out and you got a complaint from my area. We don't really have nobody that complains. We got one guy that hates bear. He hates deer hunting with dogs, but if you bear hunt with dogs, he's fine with it. If you tree a bear on his property, he wants you to go in there and kill it if it's legal. That's the gentleman right here is talking about the bear hunting problem. I mean, I got a lot of deer that get run off by bear.
Yeah.
I mean, it's true, but you don't have a problem with the bear dogs on your property.
I don't have a problem with deer dogs as long as it doesn't cost me money.
So if the club beside you has bear dogs and treats a bear on you, are you going to tell them to go kill it?
Hell yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's the way a lot of the farmers on my side look at deer.
As long as there's not hunters on that property
at that time
that would cost me money. And I feel the same way about the dogs on the deer. I don't care about that. Because I've had hunters that come in that the neighboring place ran deer on to me.
Right.
I'm fine with it. The problem with it is I lose so much money every year to the same problem, and there's nothing that I can do about it. I'm not being reimbursed. There's no way for me to get the money that I've lost because of that fact. That's what upsets me. I don't care that the dogs are on there.
Right.
It's just the problem that I'm losing income. And if I was to take income from your family, would you be mad at me?
I mean,
yes or no. That's a yes or no question now. Think about it. If I was to take food off of your table,
that's
would
what
you
you
be
gotta
mad
look at it. Okay, I moved from Augusta County. I grew up bear hunting with dogs.
Right.
And I had people that hated bear, and I had people that loved them. We treat 400-500 pounders on people that did not want dogs on their property, period. But the next meeting, well, give it 2 years, we had a town meeting, and the same people were complaining about them getting in their trash.
Well, see, and that's the other thing. I come back to the price problem. Bear's going to become a problem.
That's exactly right.
It's coming. I don't care what you say. And the biggest problem is the price. What it costs to hunt those bears. What it costs to hunt those.
And it started with a $20. Now we got to pay a $20 big game stamp to kill a bear, which that's fine. But back home they run into that problem. Now the Maine's just taking care of it. But down here, I ain't seen no progress in Maine shitting the bear. I mean, they're all big. I mean, they're full size. I mean, you kill an average bear down here is 250, 300 pounds. But what I'm looking at is I don't deer hunt with dogs. I go with a group every once in a while. They hunt my property. I got 220 some acres. I squirrel hunt, coon hunt, and y'all said about calling the landowner and stuff like that. So if my coon dog gets treed on, say my neighbor don't care, but the next neighbor over, he does care. Say he gets treed on him at 2 o'clock in the morning. And I'm hunting a pound hunt. Do you guys suggest me calling him at 2 o'clock in the morning? Because that's a complaint already on my side.
I would say ask that neighbor what they would prefer. Like I said, no one-size-fits-all policy. That was just a general thing that can help in some situations. But it's all, communicate with that neighbor and try to work out a system for if that exact scenario plays out. I grew up raccoon hunting, where we did it, all the neighbors would partake. A little bit different of a situation, but if you have a neighbor where that's something where they want to communicate with you about and figure out a system, talk with that neighbor about, what specifically would they prefer, and just try to work it out that way.
Okay. Appreciate your time. Thank you.
Have there ever been any studies done on, my personal opinion, I think the dog hunt season needs to come first. Because, and just hear me out now, because when a lot of these deer are being ran, they're in the gestation period. That can't be healthy. Has there ever been any study done on that?
I'm not a biologist myself, but I will say our biology team does do a great job of researching when season dates occur, when archery season is, when muzzleloader season is, when firearm season, which of course coincides with dog season is. They take things like that into an account. So I would go on a limb to say that surely that has been considered. I know, gestation period like that is obviously, that's a valid point you make. So I'm sure they do take that into consideration. I know, they do obviously take the things like that, like, the infancy of the animals after the gestation period when they're born, infancy of animals is considered as well. So all those things come into play for our biologists, but I'm not going to speak for them and cite a specific study, but I know those are factors that are taken into account.
I'm Larry Nelson. I live down in Virginia. Owns the land, family owns the land. Deer hunt, dog hunt, seal hunt. Y'all go where you want to hunt them, I'll try that too. We're all here to talk about a problem. We're all here to solve a problem. And I just want to bring it out here that there's not a problem in the world that's ever going to be solved without communication. You can solve nearly every problem with communication. And as long as we sit in here and we talk at you guys, and you guys sit in here and talk at us, and you guys sit up front and talk to everybody in the room, we're never going to solve a problem until we learn to talk to each other and communicate with each other. Right now, the dog hunting is an easy target. It's a low-hanging fruit. But the other people in the room who are not the dog hunters, once you think they're done with us, if you don't think they're going to move on to y'all, you're wrong. Then we all going to have to find a damn new hobby. You're going to have to find a new revenue stream. Unless we learn to communicate, work together, and solve these problems, because I don't know if everybody knows or not, there's a law coming on the ballot in Oregon to ban all hunting, period. Do you think those same dumbasses in Oregon don't have the same mindset in Virginia? Huh? If you do, you're wrong. Because they do. So until we learn to communicate and work together to solve problems, we're all going to fail. Thank y'all.
I just got one question. What is the law on dog control? I'm Sean Collins. Just moved here. Like, what does the law say for in control of dogs?
Which one?
Are you talking about what does the law say as far as where your dog can go? Or what, I'm not sure exactly what your question is.
Yeah, so anyway, I tried to educate myself. I'm new here, just moved here, been here a year, bought a decent tract of land. Yeah, I don't dog hunt, never dog hunted, but so I came to educate myself, right? Not against hunting. Again, right? We all want to. I want to keep killing deer, eating deer, all that stuff. But so when I was researching, I think the law says you either have to control your dog visually or electronically. Is that correct?
So you have to have a collar on your dog with your name, the dog owner's name and the phone number for a hunting dog. But during legal seasons, as long as the dog is released on property that the hunter has permission to hunt on, where the dog goes beyond that, it's not a violation of law. It's not legal for a hunter to intentionally run their dogs or release their dogs onto property they don't have permission to be on. So to do some act to intentionally get that dog onto property they don't have permission to be on, that would be a violation.
Okay.
But in a hypothetical situation, if they own 500 acres or 100 acres and the dogs were released on that property, not near the line where you were obviously trying to get the dog to go onto the neighboring property where you didn't have permission, as long as the dogs are released onto the property that they have permission to be on, and there's no intention to get the dogs onto prohibited land, then that would be legal.
Okay. That's most of my question. Is that they don't have to be in control of them the whole time.
Yeah, I mean, the dogs can go out of sight and beyond. Yeah.
Good evening. I'm Adam Davis. I farm on the northern end of the county, all the way to Scottsburg. I've dog hunted my whole life. I still hunt. My whole financial income, I do nothing but farm. And I want to know if anybody with the Game Commission, when you call the deer in, it asks you, was that deer killed by dogs? Well, in Halifax County, what percentage of the last year's crop deer harvest was killed by dogs? When we had a dog meeting, I figured that might be something y'all would have thought about.
We don't have that data for this year at this point.
Okay. The other thing that I wanted to mention, and Gavin Yates hit it on this, but I think the biggest thing we can all take away is education. I farm full time. If I drive 20 miles and lease a piece of land, and it floods every year, I'm probably not going to make a crop. if I live 200 miles from here and I buy a tract of land that dog hunting is allowed on, I'm east of the dog line, I got to expect that dog hunting is legal there. And I'm not completely sure why we haven't did more on both parts of the island on educating people on that prior. I hope that we can leave here today and try to work together on this, but I'll also agree with the other gentleman that said, you know, the committee said landowners versus, well, not versus, but, you know, working in a forum type group with hunters. It's a whole lot of people that own land and dog hunt and still hunt together. The issue of keeping your dog off somebody else's land, you know, when the emerald ash borer flew over and killed all the ash trees, that emerald ash borer didn't know he crossed the property line, and that dog don't either. So I'll just take everybody to think about that. Appreciate it.
I have another question as well. I've done some research on like feeding the deer, like putting out, say corn or whatever. The department seems to think that's a bad thing to do because it spreads diseases. Is what I've read. Is that correct?
Are you referring to the department's stance on baiting with chronic waste disease?
Yeah.
So CWD is largely transferred through saliva, so the idea is that bait piles where deer are congregating could spread the disease more rapidly.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So the dog hunters are going to take this the wrong way, but this is me advocating to be able to put out more corn. You get a deer that has CWD and you run him with a dog, he's going to run through 3 or 4 counties and leave that disease behind. What's the difference between that and me putting out a pile of corn? I don't say that to make the dog hunters upset. What I'm saying is, I'd like to be able to bait a little more.
I see what you're saying, but the animals travel, you know, as others have stated, the animals travel regardless, but when they're congregating on a bait pile, I think that's where the concern is from a biological standpoint. They're congregating in a very tight space with multiple deer at a time. And as other deer come to visit, that chronic waste disease strain stays present for a long time.
Anybody else would like to comment? Well, again, I'd like to thank everybody for coming out tonight. I really appreciate it. I really appreciate everybody coming out tonight. I really think, you know, this is a plus. I think we had good dialogue. And like I said, we're looking forward to continue. And just a quick note from me, like Mr. Cole and Mr. Nelson said, the key to a lot of issues is communication. And Mr. Devin, I think you said we all can do a little better. So let's all do a little better in communicating. And I think we can move forward on these issues. So before I turn it over to David Moore, I'd like to, you know, say that we would like to form this committee. It has had good luck in other counties, and I think we can do the same here. So we can get, you know, 4 people each group to come and be a part of this committee, and then we'll continue to have this dialogue. And like I said, we're not going to solve every problem, because nobody's going to solve every problem. But I think we can look at the issues and we can come up with some of the problem solving. So anyway, thank you all again tonight. Right here, anybody, you know, that wants to come, just come up here soon we finish up. Well, maybe we can get somebody. That's just whole goal.
No, again, in closing, Sheriff said it very well. Thank you all for coming out tonight. And as the one gentleman said earlier, I think the key is not talking at one another, but being willing to talk with one another, have, you know, productive dialogue where we're willing to take these situations seriously. Don't write people off, don't be dismissive, but genuinely try to work together and try different things that could improve situations, make them better for everybody, and just work together to resolve these problems. Thank you all for coming. Oh, and be sure to grab those little postcards on the way out, the Hunting with Hounds ones. Thank you all.
We all need to stick together. We all is under attack.